Jazz looking to run. Hood comes to the front court. Lob to Gobert. Slam dunk, and we're tied at 83. Hood to Gobert. Timeout Shaw. Listen to Energy Solutions Arena.
This is Dante Exum. We are ready to tip it off. Are you? Let's do this.
What a wild night at Energy Solutions Arena. We'll try to break it down the best we can. We'll look at conference alignment. That's the new hoop idea hot topic in the NBA this year. It's all coming up on today's edition of Tip Off. Pow. There were a lot of highlights to choose from last night. Crazy, crazy game. Thanks so much for tuning in to Tip Off. Thanks for your support. We've hit some milestones. The Locked On Sports Google Plus community just jumped over 2,000 people, which is pretty cool. I really like that. We'll work on it. I've gotten some more emails from people, or I've received some more emails from people who want to be moderators. So maybe I'll take some time today on the Locked On Sports Google Plus community and try to get that going. The vision on that, if you haven't already joined it, is a one-stop spot for you to get all your Utah sports. Whether it's BYU, Utah, Utah State, NBA Draft, NBA, Utah Jazz, and then have individual people moderating each one. So if there's a story about Wells being a candidate for Nebraska, it gets popped up there, then you guys can all comment on it. I hope that's the key, actually, is that you guys all comment and interact on it. That's where the Google Plus community is better than anything else. Locked On Sports Facebook, which has been kind of dead and inactive for a long time, suddenly is spiked, is back up over 4,000 likes on that. So if you get a chance to like Locked On Sports on Facebook, that's great. So thank you very much on that. You can always follow me on Twitter at Locked On Sports, and then if you want to follow my more personal stuff, that's David Locke on Facebook. So those are all there. They've increased recently. I appreciate the support on all of that. Thank you very much. It's much appreciated, and I don't in any way take it for granted. What do we have coming up on the program? I tried to build a conference realignment program today. I'm going to kind of show you where I am in the process. I stopped because I felt like it would never end. We'll talk a little bit about the NBA 5. I did a piece for TV last night that was on the kind of unsung players of the NBA. I think I'm going to throw that out there for you today on this, and then we'll dig into last night's game, which had another Quinn Snyder eruption, which I saw. I watched the TV broadcast just now to get ready for this. Didn't hit TV, so I'll tell you about it if you missed it. Had some really weird, wacky calls. Had the emergence of some great play from some guys, and some interesting things. So we'll talk about it. It was huge. I felt like there's just a lot to talk about in that game. One other quick reminder before we dig in. Remember, you can ask a question to Ron Boone or any of our players at 801-237-38. We'd very much like you to do that. 801-237-38. That's one of my projects today on my off day, is to get the interaction line back up and cooking. So if you send in the question today, I'll actually get to it, I promise. That's 801-237-38.
This is Rudy Gobert, and you are Locked On Jazz.
Thank you, Rudy. You were terrific last night. Let's first hit the NBA 5. 5 teams in the league are better than anyone else right now, or in each conference a little better. And there's guys I think probably deserve some credit. Andrew Bogut, who I just feel like I'm on a one-man wrecking crew. I think everybody's actually on board. I think I'm like on a mission, and everyone's like, yeah, we got it. Is just incredible. The Warriors are the number one defensive team in the NBA. Bogut's a top 5 rim protector, plus 3.3 assists a game, plus his picks. The Warriors' defensive rating is 91.8 when he's on the floor. And I love this note. Now, some of this has to do with Curry and Thompson. This got a lot of noise in it, but I still love this note. The Warriors shoot 43% from 3 when Bogut's on the floor. That's the value of picks and passing. They shoot 31% when he is off the floor from 3. I'll go take a look at Steph and Clay and some of those guys maybe at some point today and see if I can find whether or not there's any correlation for them with Bogut on or off the floor. But I think his picks and what he does opens up everything. Mike Conley's having an amazing year. We don't list him. Chris Paul, Tony Parker, Russell Westbrook, John Wall, Kyrie Irving. Conley's got to be in that conversation. Memphis is 10 points per 100 possessions better when he's on the floor defensively, and 9 points per 100 possessions better when he's on the floor offensively. And he's shooting 44% from 3. He's one of the best defensive point guards in the league. It's remarkable. Toronto comes into town next. They've got one of my favorite players in Amir Johnson. He just does so many little things, and he's added the 3 this year, which allows Lowry and DeRozan to drive much more. Nene in Washington continues to do better things than anyone realizes. He's now a 13-year vet, just makes all the little plays. 11 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists a game. Also, defensive rating is 91.3 when he's on the floor and 106.1 when he's off the floor. That might be as big a discrepancy as there is in the NBA. And then why is Portland so good? And why maybe it's legitimate? Kevin Pelton worked with us on stats and thought Chris Kaman would be a great addition to Portland. In fact, it has been. Portland's made some really strong moves that Neil O'Shea, their general manager, and their crew deserve some credit for. The Robin Lopez steal from New Orleans 2 years ago, and now Chris Kaman, the two of those 7-footers are combining for 47 minutes a game. They combined to average 22 points, 14 and a half rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 blocks a game. And the Blazers are 13-4 right now. Their defense is 5 points per 100 possessions better than it was a year ago. They're ranked 6th in the league defensively. I think it's because you have 2 7-footers. Go look at teams that throw out 2 7-footers and give you 48 minutes of 7 feet, and they're pretty good defensively. You can go put out 48 minutes of 7 feet. Indiana does it with Hibbert and Mahimi. Portland's doing it with Lopez and Kaman. San Antonio gets close if Duncan and Splitter are both healthy. Look around. Go take a quick run through the NBA standings and look at teams that throw out a backup center that's 7 feet tall to go with their starting center who's 7 feet tall. I know it sounds stupid, but height matters. And you'll see pretty good defensive teams. In fact, you'll pretty much find the best defensive teams. It's a big deal if you can find a way to throw out. You got some guys. Then you've got teams like the Jazz who are playing in Atlanta who are playing 6'10" guys at center, and I don't think it's that surprising that Atlanta's 20th in the league defensively and Utah's 28th. Right? I mean, if you just go look at the size of centers, you almost find the defensive ratings on everybody. I think that's a lot of it. Golden State only throws out Bogut. There aren't many teams that have 2. Okay, understand that. It's a real luxury. But I do think it matters. Memphis, frankly, has 2. Kosta Koufos and Marcus Gasol. They got 48 minutes, 7-footers. If Kosta is actually 7 feet, I don't know. He once was. I don't know if they still have him listed as. I think that's a stretch, frankly. If they have him still listed at 7 feet, I'll check. We'll go with Basketball Reference as the. They have him listed 7 feet. And if Marcus Gasol's 7 feet, then that's 48 minutes, 7-footers. It's worth taking a look at. Look at the teams that throw out that. All right, let's take a quick second. I don't want to bury too much time on it. I was trying to build conference realignment. I'm going to share a document with you. And share my idea, and then see whether or not see if you think anything of it. Here was the vision I had on this: was that you build 3 divisions of 10, playing each team in your division 4 times and the other teams twice. You end up with 76 games. Adam Silver's talked about wanting to do cups, and so I thought you could do an interdivisional round robin and gets you to 80. And I'll show you what I've done here. If we're getting rid of conferences, I know you want to worry about travel, but it's not that big a deal. So what I've done is we have our 6 divisions that are intermix them. So I gotta say, I don't want to redo what Tom Ziller did. Tom Ziller, Sports Nation, did a fabulous piece on realignment. Might even try to call him today and talk to him about it and play around with it. The other idea that is what I'm throwing out here, frankly, this worked. My 10-team division, geographically, it just doesn't work. If you try to put it together, you end up with 9 in the West, you end up with 10, and you end up with 11 in the East. Now, it would all work beautifully if Milwaukee would become Seattle. And if we knew Milwaukee was going to become Seattle, then you geographically put this together. But if you geographically put it together, you still have a weighted where the West is better than the East, and you end up with the teams on the West geographically playing tougher schedules. So I thought you could actually take let me know what your thoughts on this are. I'd love maybe, again, this is what the Google Plus community is. So you have your 6 divisions, 5 that we have right now. Hold them together. but intermix them. So, for example, call, you know, Brooklyn, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Toronto is A, and they're, or whatever, they could just be the Atlantic. And so for this year, the Atlantic and the Northwest gel together, similar to the NFL. And so you play during that season, you play 4 games against your inside this division of 10. A year from now, it suddenly becomes, you move it around and it becomes the Atlanta. I'm just using the Jazz. The Atlanta, Miami, Orlando, Charlotte, Washington bracket intermix division moves in with a 10-team division with Minnesota, Phoenix, Denver, Utah, and Oklahoma City. And so you play that division. Now that 10-team division plays each other 4 times. I guess you can have a division champion if you'd like to. Maybe you have a little playoff inside your division at each point. I don't know how you work it. And Boston, Brooklyn, New York, Philadelphia, Toronto suddenly move over and play the Memphis, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, New Orleans group. And you rotate that so that over a 5-year period, every group has been bundled together to play their extra games. It adds a little variance. You then keep your division of 5 together. This would actually be better if we had 32 teams. You could do it with 6, and you actually have a little tournament, and you would actually get up to 80 another game in here. So if we ever expand to Kansas City and Seattle, this would actually work better. Then you go to 4-8, by the way. You go to 4 divisions of 8 and just, again, do the same thing. But you then play maybe a little round robin Cup series that becomes the Northwest Cup, and you play for the Northwest Cup in a round robin over a certain period of time in the middle of the season. Everybody breaks into their groups, and you play those 5 games in some sort of a cup format, and you award the cup during that first week of January becomes the Cup week. Or 2 weeks of 5 games over a 10-day period of time or something inside your division. Now you end up with 80 games, and I don't know how you get to 82, or frankly, we need to get to 82 in the season, but you keep some of your regional aspects of things and have your Portland, Golden State, however it might work. So that's kind of the vision on how I had it. I do actually, the other thought I would have is I like, if you're going to go to 80, then I kind of like the idea that you have, if you're going to 16 playoff teams, that you go to 12 playoff teams and have 8 teams play off to make the Final Four. So 20 teams actually make the playoffs, and then those 8 teams play off, or maybe it's 14, and those 8 break into 2 little brackets of 4, and 2 of them make the playoffs by getting their play-in game for 15 and 16, and suddenly you've got 22 of 30 teams qualifying for some sort of postseason increase. That's a little bit of my idea. I'll let you guys kind of play off of it. I want to take so much time on it, but I thought there's some level of something there, and I liked, frankly, intermixing the divisions so that you're not always playing the same teams all of the time. All right, that's that idea. We'll see whether you think it's any good or not.
Hi, everybody. This is Enes Kanter. I want to hear from you. Call 801 200 37 38 and ask me a question. That is 801 200 37 38 to ask me a question.
Remember, you can ask me a question during our program right now. Just go to the question and answer part on the front page of the event page. Usually I try to post when the event's coming so you can do it beforehand. I didn't do that today, but feel free to throw in a question. Where do we start from last night's game? So many things. Kind of a crazy, fun, wild, bizarre game. And the Jazz have this incredible, strange quarter issue going on right now. If you look at our team, we are the worst team in the NBA. And by the way, I hate to say this, it's scary anytime I say that because that includes Philadelphia. That if you look at us quarter by quarter, this is just so bizarre. If you look at us quarter by quarter right now, we are per 48 minutes or per game, I think would be a better way to look at it. We are minus, our first quarters are -3, our second quarters are -5, and our third quarters are +3. Like, how does that happen? Our second quarter, and then our fourth quarters are only -1. It slows down we're pretty close into that. It's a really strange kind of essence of what's taking place. My thought is there's two things that are going on with this team right now that are kind of big picture developmental aspects. One is I think the guys are still learning how hard they can play. I think that's part of it. We're ranked 30th in the NBA in first quarter and second quarter defense, and then ninth in the third quarter. Our offense is 22nd in the first and second, and 25th in the second, and first in the third. We're the third best team in the NBA in the third quarter. Like, how does that happen? So it's right now. This team's got to learn to play without prompting. And I think there's a level where these guys have to learn how hard they have to play, what it is to play that hard. Maybe then also how to learn how to use your energy during a game. The second thing is when things go awry, there's no stopping it right now. The minute someone gets on a little bit of a surge, there's no idea how to stop it. And that's time together, and that's experience, and that's everything's new, right? New coaching staff, new systems. What's our go-to play? How are we going to run? Who's getting the ball? If Gordon's not on the floor, what are we doing? We just, the numbers with Gordon off the floor. It happened again last night. The minute Gordon checked out was the beginning of that fade in the first half, and then by the time Gordon got back in the second quarter, they didn't actually pull it back together. That was a 35-12 run over 12 minutes last night. That was pretty remarkable. For the season, we're 107 points per 100 possessions with Gordon on the floor, 95 with him off. It's pretty stunning. The only guy who actually is close to as big a difference is Ennis. Now, defensively, we're not good with Ennis on the floor. Defensively, with Ennis and Trey on the floor is our two guys that come out the worst. But with Ennis on the floor, offensively, we're at 108.4 and 98 when he's off the floor. So that's, for the season. We'll have to look at recent trends, and I'll pull up some recent trends on Gobert that are really exciting on the way he's playing. So, we've got some bizarre kind of game, and so how do you figure that out? And that's my theory of what's going on with our quarter issues is, one, we've got to figure out how hard we have to play. We come out, and I don't think we have figured that out. And second is how to stop it when things start to go wrong. We had another Quinn Snyder kind of wake-up moment. It didn't get caught on TV, but in the third quarter, he pulls Cantor and it happens fast, by the way. The Trey has just hit a big three. TV goes to the replay, so it's not like they did anything wrong. Don't misunderstand me. They went to the replay. It happened. We don't have replays on radio, so we see it. So he gets into pulls Cantor and Gobert, and he actually is mad about a play that was a 24-second shot clock violation, where they didn't rotate over to help on Chandler, who came down on a dunk, and it turns out Chandler was late on it anyway. He then puts him back in the game. From that moment on, the game changed. And Gobert was a huge factor in last night's game. On Empty the Noggin, I put this in last night. When Gobert was on the floor, Andy Larson over at Salt City Hoops, who got a Zach Lowe shout-out. That's big, dude. When Gobert was on the floor last night, Andy had down I think they only allowed one basket or 1 point in the restricted area after that moment. But when Rudy was on the floor last night, the Nuggets shot 39%. And when Rudy was on the bench, they shot 61%. It's pretty big. It's a pretty big deal right there, by the way. Let's not underestimate that. I mean, that's a really exciting potential thought for where the Jazz are going right now. Because if Gobert can become that rim defender, you've got a chance of becoming a good defensive team when you figure out your systems. Now, who plays around whom and how this roster gels, that's so far away from being set that it's difficult to figure out. Right now, when Rudy's on the floor, teams are shooting 43.6%. I hate shooting percentage. I would much rather have effective field goal percentage, but I don't believe I can get it in this. And when Rudy's off the floor, teams are shooting 49%. They do make an extra three when Rudy's on the floor per 48 minutes. So there's a little bit of the numbers actually come back around when you go to effective field goal percentage a tiny bit. But overall, when Rudy's on the floor, teams are shooting 49 off the floor. Teams are shooting 49.1%, and when he's on the floor. I haven't done this actually. I'm just doing something new. Oh, I don't know if I can pull it up in time, but I might be able to post this for you later. When this is going to be interesting because this is what is the restricted area shooting percentage when Rudy's on the floor versus off the floor. So opponents, when Rudy is on the floor, teams are shooting 61.6% in the restricted area. The corner three is really what's killing us when Rudy's on the bench. When Rudy's on the floor, see if I can get this. So 61.6% when Rudy is on the bench is the number in the restricted area. I think I just may have pulled the wrong. Let me just do that again. I feel like I just pulled the wrong one. Sorry, this is a little slow for those of you who are listening on something. Actually, for any of you, this is slow and boring and awful. I should be sharing it, but it's too complicated to share all these little windows as they pop up. And this is, you're used to this. Didn't work. Gave me the exact same number. Wonder what happened there. All right. I'll have to delve into that a little deeper, see if I can find out some other way. That was a waste of your time. My apology. All right. So Rudy was really terrific last night in the defense. I think you begin to find something. Then you got to figure out how these guys gel together, who can play with whom. It gets to be the Gobert Favors issue. Can Favors become the David West to Roy Hibbert? Can Favors become the LaMarcus Aldridge to Chris Kaman and Robin Lopez? Can Favors become the Dirk Nowitzki to Tyson Chandler? Probably not. But you know what? Derek deserves huge credit. His mid-range jumper development is a huge story. We talked about the other day on the show. I mean, he's gone from 29% to 31% to 44%. He deserves huge credit. So maybe he can. And he's a pretty good passer. I wouldn't put a lot by Derek. You never know. But that's part of the development, part of the process of what we're seeing. None of it's going to happen immediately. That's the thing I think we all have to remember. None of this is going to happen immediately. None of this is going to happen overnight. None of these things are definite right now, right? Our roster's not set. This is a process of getting to where we're going to go. We're going to have a roster reconstruction at some point before we make the next step along the way. We missed Derek last night, 0-10 in the last 2 years when Derek just played. I thought I saw something neat out of Ennis last night. Early in the game, he wasn't able to maintain it, but early in the game, I saw him link a sequence of moves together that I've not seen from him before. He airballed a jump shot, then he drove into the defender, made the shot, then they backed off and he hit the jumper, then he drove by the defender again and got it. Now all of a sudden, and then he went into the post on the next one. You got a sequence of moves developing out of Ennis that's offensively pretty special that we haven't seen before, and that's nice. That's a nice touch right there. Alec had a good plus-minus night last night, which I've highlighted that he wasn't having, so let's give him credit when he does. It's interesting. You watch Gordon right now and how good Gordon is, and he's really good. And Derek is better than he's ever been. And if you're really kind of being honest about what we've done over the last years, we have certainly been slower in the development of our guys than some other people. We haven't over-dipped the Oreo cookie. And right or wrong, regardless, another discussion for another time. But the fact is that we are slower in the minutes played and for some of these guys. And you wonder whether or not everyone, Alec and Ennis, are a year away from making the same jump that we're going to see from that we've seen from Gordon and Derek right now. I mean, Gordon and Derek are considerably better players than they were a year ago. At least that's what I see. And when you look at the minutes played on the two of them, Monroe and John Wall have crossed over 10,000. DeMarcus is at 9,000. Paul George was at 9,000. Gordon's at 8,500, and Derek's only at 7,000. So Derek's a little because of Al and Paul's. We were a little slower in giving them those minutes. If you look at the 2011 draft class, which is just one of the wackiest draft classes ever, the top guys are all up at 7,000, almost 8,000 minutes played, and you slide down. Alex only at 4,800, and Ennis is only at 4,500. They're almost a year worth of minutes behind their natural developmental stage. There's 7 guys in this who have played over 6,000 minutes, and our guys are still sitting below at 4,500. So I look at Ennis and Alec, and I wonder, a year from now, is that when we actually find out? And Alec is signed, luckily, and Ennis will have to see what happens. But there might be that we're a year away from finding out, um, what steps they take. Chandler Parsons leads that draft class in minutes, but Klay Thompson, I'm not saying they're going to become Klay Thompson, but you see the jump. Brandon Knight's taking a big jump this year. Well, he's at 7,500 minutes compared to Alec's 4,800. Maybe that Alec makes that jump next year. Kenneth Faried, Kawhi Leonard's at 5,700. He's making his big jump right now. Alex at 48, not as far behind, but 1,000 minutes is a lot. Jimmy Butler's making his big jump right now. He's 1,000 minutes ahead. Are we still a year away for Alec and Ennis to get this experience and make their jump? I think there's maybe a strong argument for that to be the case in both of those cases. All right, I talked about it on Postcast, then we had some technical. Well, okay, I didn't turn off Postcast, so the video became 30 minutes long, so I think I eliminated it, so I didn't bore you with it. Few things on the calls last night. The technical on Gary Briggs is probably the right call. The reason is because if Alec Burks were to drive to the basket, turn an ankle, be laying on the floor, the ball goes the other way, they score, we come back the other way, and Gary Briggs runs out on the floor to attend to a player in game action, then it's a risk to the other players. That's a technical foul. The idea that in that circumstance where the game is stopped, there's been a ruckus, and Alex laying on the floor, that Briggs gets a technical foul for that is, to me, insane. But by the definition of the rules, that's what the call is. And the idea that there wasn't a timeout there seems, you can't blame fault Gary at all. He's going out to attend to his player, and both coaches are out in the middle of the floor. It sure feels to me like the game's been stopped and there's a timeout. It seems like a really silly call by the officials, and that became a huge play. That point became a huge deal late. Second one is on Trey Burke's drive to the basket where he gets racked against the arm and then the ball goes out of bounds. We had this in the playoffs last year. The officials do not have the capability to go back and make the call on the foul. They can only look at what was triggered, which is whether the ball was inbounds or out of bounds. The example I would give you, and I gave this on Postcast last night, so I apologize, is let's say they're going to review a block charge call in the restricted area. Well, they can check that, but then can they check whether it's a block or a charge? And I believe they may have changed that a little bit of what they're allowed to do. But now, what happens if the guy traveled before the block charge? Can they? No. What happens if there was a moving pick that freed the guy for the drive? No. Like, where does it stop? And so what the league has done is very clearly defined whether your trigger is, in this case, in bounds, out of bounds, who's it off, that's your trigger. That's the only thing you can look at, because how far back can you take it if you do it otherwise? And that's what the league's trying to prevent. And that's why that rule probably doesn't get changed, but it's a problem. There might be some new wording one day of simultaneous act, which would be that foul causing the ball to go out of bounds, can suddenly be added to the call. And you can't, I don't know how they would word it, but you understand what I think I'm saying. Like, you don't want to be going and reviewing the pick that was set to clear the guy to become in the restricted area, and whether he traveled before, and maybe somebody reached in. Like, how do you decide? What happens if somebody reached in, a second player, and then there's the block charge? Like, does that count? And or does that classify as the same thing as the hand on the arm for Trey Burke? It's very complicated. Final thing, I actually should pull this play up for you. Let me see if I can find this. The last play, I don't know if I'm going to, because there wasn't a shot taken on it. On the last play, the Nuggets made, give the Nuggets some credit. Kenneth Faried flew in for an offensive rebound on a key play, flipped it out to Flalo for a three that was probably the biggest play of the game. It was just pure hustle. Two of our guys were standing there watching it. Ty Lawson hits a lucky shot late. We made a lot of plays to get back in the game also. What was interesting is in the final play when the Jazz went for a three, with about 10 seconds left, a really good play by the Nuggets out of that timeout defensively to deal with it. I'm not sure whether I have the right play here. I wasn't planning to go to it. It's a play the Jazz ran. They didn't run it quite as smoothly this time, but they actually ran it last in the preseason and flummoxed the Portland Trailblazers on it. And so that's this is the play they went back to. I think I've got it right here, so let me come pull it. And it's a neat play. I'm sure we'll run it again at some point. So the inbound's going to come up to the top, I think. Oh, I have it in slow motion. I don't mean to. So Gordon comes to get it here. The key to this play is watch. If this is the right play, Trey is. Trey here. Here's Trey. Trey's going to just run through. This didn't get set up quite right. It didn't get run as well. But the key to this play is that Trey is getting a back pick by Booker off the inbound. Gordon's going to drive to the right here. Trey actually is supposed to be open for a corner three here for the Jazz to go for the lead. And so if you watch this play, Booker inbounds to Hayward. Trey comes across. They actually would have hoped to have this a little tighter in here so that Trey mucks this up a little bit. Gordon goes and Lawson does a nice job of going under the pick, and then the height of Mozgov and everybody cuts off Gordon's ability to throw this pass out. This is where guys have got to get used to not going to the ball. Booker trying to figure out where he goes, and this is where the pass comes. Booker slides into a place where there's no way for him to pass. Alec does a good job of getting his defender out of the way, and then the Jazz reset this play, now a bit frantically on what was a busted play. Trey penetrates, finds Gordon, and where Gordon I thought deserved a foul call, and actually on the replay, maybe not. But this play wasn't run as crisply as they wanted, but it's a pretty neat play call because if you watch here, again, when Trey comes through right, there's the pick, and Trey's supposed to get to that corner for an open look. That pass probably has to happen right here, and Trey kind of stops, actually, now that I see it. Trey doesn't get to that corner for that spot as well as you might want on that play. It's a very creative, well done play call. I'm watching it. I hadn't noticed. Let's watch Trey here. Boom, boom, opens up. Yeah, he got there pretty far. The timing was off on it. That's the crispness of execution that you have to have. All right, that is tip off today. I hope you're well. Hope you enjoyed. Sorry for the delay in the Gobert stuff in the middle. I'll see if I can find that and post it on Lockdown Jazz. See you.